do record these show and tells so that we can share them with colleagues who aren't able to come along. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. Show and tell 16 in July. Wow. And so we're going to take about half an hour to run through some of the things we've been working on and thinking about. If you've got any questions, if you pop them in the chat bar, that's probably the easiest way for us to see them while we're going through, and someone will either answer or draw attention to it. If you've got anything really burning, there's a little raise hand feature has appeared in Teams now, so you can give that a go, and we'll see if you've raised your hand, we'll get you to ask a question as we go along. Otherwise, let's keep moving through the slides. So, purpose of a show and tell. You've probably all been to one of these before, but this is our chance to keep you updated on the project. We can talk about the work we're doing, things we're thinking about, a chance for you to ask any questions, to kind of share what you're thinking about the work we're doing too, and we'll do a little bit at the end about kind of what we're thinking, or at least how we're thinking about looking to the future as well. So the way that this project has been working follows agile and user-centered design principles. So that means everything's grounded in research with real users. Again, you'll see some evidence of that in terms of what people are kind of sharing today. But we always make sure we spend time with real people out there, residents, service users who are using these things that we're building, getting them in their hands, seeing how they work with them, observing how they work with things, asking lots of questions, looking at lots of data, and using that to inform any kind of future developments, anything else that we might build or change, and that keeps going and going and going. It's an iterative cycle, goes around in lots of loops, and you'll see that helps us achieve our goal, which is to iteratively over time build this new website and all the things that go around it. I'm gonna have to start apologizing now because this grayed out bit has been grayed out for a little while, and we've been saying for the last couple of these we're gonna reshape this, we're gonna get a new vision in place. It keeps falling off the list of things to do, but we're going to be looking at that. We should be getting a workshop together in the next week so that we can actually sit down and reset our goals for a slightly longer time horizon. So over the last 3 weeks, we've been working on a few things. So you can see there are a few bits and pieces we've been doing where we've been wrapping up what we call kind of technical or design debt. These are things that we either kind of hopped over or did some shortcuts on or kind of saved for another day. It's important that we go back and address those over time. Otherwise, these things have become very big and unmanageable. So we've just been working closely with colleagues, I know certainly in comments and complaints, and helping solve some questions on the job sites as well. And always looking at accessibility. I'm quite keen that we try and make sure that there's some focus on that every sprint, one way or another. So that continues to be a thing that we make improvements to. And then the big chunks that we've been working on. The policy and strategy, analytics and cookies, schema.org, CRM and resident data. I'm not going to go into any detail on those because that's what colleagues are going to kind of talk to us about now. And that's pretty much it from me until I say goodbye at the end, which is great. So you can hear from the people who actually do all of the work. So I'll hand over, I think, to Boris for the policy and strategy.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Ben. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about firstly about the policy and strategy pages that we've been working on. So we've talked a little bit about this already in the previous show and tell. So this is a work stream about making sure the policy and strategy documents we upload are accessible and easy to read online. As part of that work stream, we are working with the policy team to develop some kind of guidance for teams that are actually writing policies and strategy documents. And in this particular last few weeks, we've been looking at examples from some other councils that have developed some guidance before, and in particular, we looked at something from Durham County Council, for example. They had quite a nice document put together, and some others as well. And we're kind of now starting with the help of the policy team to shape that a little bit. So this part is primarily in the hands of the policy team, but we're just making sure that this is aligned with the website in general, and just making sure that the guidance is aligned with writing documents in a way that makes them easy to read online. As part of that as well, we are developing, or we just kind of developed very quickly some Word templates that we can try out and see if they are applicable to a number of different documents that are already out there. In particular, we're currently working on the taxi licensing policy. So that's one of the first we're going to look at as an example. So we're going to see if this template that we were putting together, kind of is useful for that particular document. One of the reasons why we put this together is to see if we can, shape this Word template in a way that makes it look and feel more like our website, and also to make sure that we use the right paragraph styles and all those things to have all that in place. So that makes it then easier to upload the document, to transfer it more easily onto the website and translate that into a web page. So we've tried that with some features that allow us to do that a bit more automatically this week. There's still extra work that needs to be done, but it's quite promising. It seems like it might be quite easy to actually just upload a document and pop comes the web page, and that would be really amazing. The other thing that we are really keen on is just making sure that all these documents are written in a way and produced in a way that makes the exported PDFs then accessible. So by using the right paragraph styles, for example, and by using the right font sizes and things like that, that will make things a lot easier to do so. The other thing I want to talk about a little bit is a new work stream that we've been working on recently. So this is around the resident data and access discovery. We also call that sometimes the CRM discovery, but we try not to call it that because this is kind of jumping to a solution, which CRM might or might not be it. So we're shaping that around what we think is the initial problem statement in a way, which is around making sure that residents can access services in a better way. So why this particular work stream? The reasoning here is obviously, as so much of the other work we're doing, it's around joining up services that were previously held by different district councils and a county council. This means a number of different call centers, service centers that use a number of different legacy systems to collect their data from the residents. So the systems range from FirmStep, Salesforce, Capita, Civica, GOS. So there's a number of different systems that do that. You have a view of some of these different portals that come out of these systems on the right side as well. So there's quite a variety of things that residents are currently still using. Also associated with these different, previous local authorities are different processes that were put in place. So in some cases, the contact centers have a more centralized way of doing things. In some cases, it was a bit more dispersed. So in some cases, there were numbers for separate services published on a website. And that just makes it quite tricky to then join up all these processes. So that's something we're going to be looking at as well, trying to understand how this currently works and how we can, make sure that's improved as we go forward. We are making sure that we look at both the offline and online experience, right? So that's something we're quite keen on because obviously we're working on the website primarily, and we know that there is a big, link between obviously the resident services that are offered via phone and via service centers versus the ones that residents can do online. And we also want to make sure that residents can do as much online as possible because that just makes things a little bit less expensive in the long term. We also want to keep the big picture in mind. We know that there's, as part of like councils coming together, there's even more systems than the one I mentioned earlier. There's really a huge number of systems that the council uses. And we know that data about residents is captured in a number of those. So we know that there's a bigger picture to, having data about the resident in the council, but we also need to be practical. So we're currently really trying to focus on the service centers and just making sure that the officers working there have the right tools to do their work as easily as possible and hopefully, give them those tools as soon as possible. One thing we did last week, we said, all right, let's try and talk to some other councils that have done this kind of work before. So what did they learn from it? So we talked to Hackney and Rushmore councils that have gone recently through some kind of CRM implementation projects. They both have said that they opted for more lightweight CRMs. They were aware that there's bigger systems that, kind of try to be all-encompassing, but they didn't want that because it just makes it quite tricky to implement and then change anything. So they wanted that flexibility, and that works quite well for them. They're very happy with that. They stress the importance of involving actual customer service officers in those projects, because otherwise you just end up implementing something that might not work for the users. So that's something we're quite keen on doing, is to work directly with the service. They cautioned us of the dangers of inheriting bad data, right? So we know that CRM systems in particular tend to have quite poor quality data. There's a lot of data duplication. There's, just kind of wrong data entry sometimes. And if we are going to migrate data from existing CRMs, we just need to be aware of that and just devise a strategy that that takes that into account. We also need to really have very good understanding of what reporting needs to look like, because that can then later on inform service improvement. So the customer service obviously sits at the center of customers interacting with the council, and that produces quite a lot of good data if you have a way of capturing that in a meaningful way. So we need to make sure that that is part of that project as well. We also heard that when from both Hackney and Rushmore that because they've done quite a lot of work to make sure that the CRMs that they put in place work really well for the users that are using them, so that they have like a pleasant user experience, an easy to use experience. That also resulted in a lot less training than they previously used to have. So there is an opportunity there to again save some time and money where it's really it could be used much better in other places. So that's something we're aiming to do possibly as well. Enough from me. I'm going to pass on to Mike, I think. Oh.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, if you go on to the next slide, please. Right, we've been doing adding a fair amount of content and updating content, largely to reflect that we are now starting to come out of lockdown and circumstances have changed, and we need to make sure that we're giving that kind of guidance to our residents as much as we can. We're now opening up council access points, which are all around the county. We've added in a new Visit the Council launch page, and we put that up to the same top level as the Contact the Council, so that residents who want to go and physically visit us should be able to find out quite easily where to go and what they need to do in their local area. If you can go on to the next slide, please, Boris. We also have what we're calling our main Access Plus centres, and they're the sites of our previous district and county council buildings. And we want, for this, we've added, as you can see in the slide here, a location template to show where they are, what the opening hours, and we've developed that really as a test case. We want to try and turn it into a fairly rigid template for location pages. There are going to be examples in many areas where we'll be using this location template. As you can see, it will show things like the opening times, the address, contact details, all in one place. Next slide, please, Boris. Again, as connected with us starting to come out of lockdown, we have updates to our library pages. The libraries are due to reopen soon, and when they do reopen, they'll be reopening with safety measures in place. And it's important to make sure that the guidance is given to anybody who wants to have a look at the website to find out what the situation is likely to be when they visit, when libraries are opening, which libraries open. So we're trying to make sure that's as clear as possible for our residents. And we're also working at the moment on a community boards page, and that's information about how to support your local council through community groups and official meetings. And we're hoping that that will be available soon. And I think that's it from me.
Cool. Thank you.
Is it back to Boris?
It's over to Nick. Yeah.
Over to Nick. Sorry, Nick.
Right, I'm going to share my screen. I can only share a screen, not an individual window. So give me a second while I make this a lot bigger. Is that text big enough to see?
It should be all right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the admin interface for the main website and the jobs website. And one of the things that we can be shown in it is a record of the things people have searched for over the last week or so. And when we go and check out some of those search terms, for example, I don't know, garden waste, or I've just accidentally closed it. Recycling bags was one that I found only had one hit, and it's not really quite the right page we were expecting people to go to, just because the content on the page might not include the word bags, and it's not delivering what people are expecting when they mean I want to recycle a bag or get a recycling bag. So we can tweak the search results in a few different ways. One is just by improving the search engine beneath the hood and changing the way it gets results. It prefers results that are match in a page title rather than somewhere on the body of a page. Another thing we can do is make sure that the content where the people are searching for actually does appear in the body of the page, so that those results come up naturally as a result of the search. But given this list of popular search results, we can check these out and see which ones of these are producing nothing. And a quick and easy fix for us is a feature called promoted search results. So I can go in here and say I'd like to add a promoted search result for parking. And if we have a look at the results at the moment for parking, I've got 33 results here. And I've added one manually at the top for visiting a cemetery, which really shouldn't appear there. But because I've said, please produce this as the top hit for parking, then I can have some sort of control over what people see. So let's say I want to add a new one for volunteer at a library. There we go. And I can even choose the text that appears when that happens, and my page is now too big to find the save button. So if we go and look at those search results again, the third result now should be volunteer at a library. We in fact have a page called parking on its own, but because the search engine tries to interpret what you mean and treats the word parking as park possibly as well, it's returning results for country parks and parks and green spaces. So we've now gone up to 34 results, but we still don't have the parking number at the top. So if I instead go and find the page called exactly parking. Blimey, working with a really big screen doesn't always work. So if I can go and find the page called parking itself. There it is. That's the one we really want people to get to. Put it up at the top. Come on. Save, and let's refresh the page one more time. And now we've still got 34 results. It's appeared at the bottom. Maybe I've not sorted those correctly. But the idea is there, and oh yeah, it hasn't gone to the top. I'm not going to go through my lack of scrolling demonstration again, and I'll hand over to Tom to show the next feature. But the idea with this is that we now have on the production site a lot of customized search results, which we're about to deploy this afternoon, and search should get a lot better from today onwards. Tom.
Let me just add to that, Nick. I think that was really great. I think one of the things that I'm really keen on seeing is, with this feature that Nick just demonstrated, we're going to be able to reduce the number of times when, in fact, the search produces a page with no results. We know that happens quite a bit, and we're hoping to get those numbers down over the next couple of weeks. In particular, we are quite keen on tracking that with analytics. I think it's very important to stress that all these kind of things that we're trying to do, we are hoping for an impact that they produce, and we need to be able to track that. So we now can track that with analytics as well. Over to Tom. Do you want me to share the screen?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, skip straight to the next one, please. So one of the things we spoke about at the very beginning of the project was this idea that we wanted to create a website that was of the internet, not just on the internet. And by that, what we mean is creating something that isn't just readable by people, but can also be read by machines, and machines can interpret information on it and serve it in different ways. So one of the ways we can do that is by just writing really, really good, clear content, which we're doing as much as we can. The other way we can do it to help things along is by using tags from schema.org. And the idea behind a schema.org tag is it basically says to a machine, this information is explicitly about this subject. So it might be about coronavirus, it might be about a job, it might be about anything else. What we've been doing over the last few weeks is kind of going through all the various tags that we've got available in schema.org, and there are absolutely loads. It's a big initiative backed by Google and Microsoft, amongst others. And we've started pulling out tags we can use to highlight key information, things around coronavirus information, events, including online events, which are obviously more important at the moment, jobs and various other things. What that enables in kind of practical terms is things that we see on the right-hand side. So in the top result, we have a search result for coronavirus. And you see underneath the search result, you have these options: testing for coronavirus, protect yourself and others from coronavirus. These can then be expanded, and what Google's doing in the search results is displaying information from the website directly in the search results without people having to go to the site. So this makes it much easier for people to find their information, but it also means it's much easier for search engines and things like voice assistants to index this information. So theoretically, it means that we don't need to kind of spend time building, Alexa apps and stuff like that to provide information to people. We can just create content that's tagged up in the appropriate manner, and things like Siri and Alexa will automatically find that information when asked the appropriate questions. So yeah, the last sprint was really around kind of identifying which tags we can use, and we'll be kind of rolling out these tags over like the next few months, just as and when we kind of migrate content across. Thanks.
Cool. I think this is we're back to Ben.
Thanks, everyone. I said this would be better without me talking so much. Thank you. Loads of really, really good work. I'm super excited about the schema.org stuff. It's one of those things that's quite hard to show the immediate value of, but when it's all kind of put together and people can start to find, what they're looking for wherever on the web they might be, rather than always forcing everybody to come through our particular front door, our particular website, it just hugely increases the reach of all of the kind of important public service information that we've got there. So stuff that's coming next, things that we're thinking about. The next slide. So I mentioned at the top, we need to kind of get our workshop together to kind of put the slightly longer term thoughts on paper. We know that the stuff that's going to be taking us through the summer, we're helping colleagues in the Family Information Service. They've been building a new kind of directory of services and a find a childcare place service that includes some fairly kind of complex integrations with some Ofsted data. So they've been doing kind of loads of work to sort out quite a complex back office system, case management system. There's all sorts going on there, but a huge chunk of their offer is also about providing really good, clear information, advice and guidance to residents, particularly children, families, and families of children with special educational needs and disabilities as well. So some crucial information that we need to get absolutely right. So we're going to be helping them move their content from the kind of bucksfamilyinfo.org website onto the main Buckinghamshire Council website. And this is quite a big deal. This is a fairly significant kind of change in approach, one that we're super keen to support because we think we can help really increase the kind of the visibility of this information and help the team kind of meet all of its goals around supporting families in the county. So we're dead excited about this. We're working on some slightly different templates, and there's a lot of content that we need to work through with them to get moved across so that they can hopefully go live with their completely new set of products and for residents in September-ish. We'll kind of advise as we go. Policy stuff Boris talked through. We've got some more work to do as we kind of start moving into recovery. Different bits of the organisation will start to become kind of more open, and we need to be clear about how and where and when residents can interact with different types of services. We're always going to be kind of working on accessibility, as I mentioned. So I think we've got one more slide before we close. Yeah, so some of the immediate next steps. I won't go over. There's a couple of things that I haven't mentioned. So fixed penalty notices. That's quite an interesting piece of work that's happening. We've got some new some kind of new policy approaches around issuing fixed penalty notices for fly tipping rather than just taking people to court as the only sanction. So there's a new process for doing that, a new process for kind of issuing and taking payments against those fines. And sorry, I'm just going to pass somebody over this way. There we go. Mum's back. And we obviously need to help get the content in place so that people who perhaps have been issued with a fine know what to do with it, know where to go, know how to make a payment, and do that with as little pain as possible. Mentioned the Family Information Service. We're going to be doing a similar piece of work with colleagues in adult social care as well, which again is really, really exciting. We've got another website, Care Advice Bucks, I think that's a .org or .org.uk, which is kind of slightly off grid again, slightly different set of technology. It creates problems for us in terms of managing quite a broad set of websites. It is great to kind of get this content all in one place where most of our residents are, get some consistent design principles around it and work with that team to move some of that content over. I think that's likely to happen after we finish the work for the Family Information Service, but it's good that we're able to start thinking about some of these other kind of satellite websites and help kind of close down some of the websites we don't need anymore. Other things, I'm not going to read them out to you. There's loads of stuff happening. The next show and tell will be on the 16th of July. So quick pause for any questions. You can drop them in the chat or use your raise your hand feature. We'll hang on for a couple more minutes. Otherwise, it's thank you very much from all of us. But do ask a question. Go on. If you've got anything you want to ask. It's crickets and a reducing watching number. So I think that might mean no questions. A few of us will hang here for a little bit, but otherwise, thank you, and we'll see you all soon.